Well, good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm excited to do your December the 1st spiritual principle a day in a meditation. Hopefully, this take will be better than the last several. Okay, the title of this meditation, Unconditional Love and Sponsorship. I think that the most valuable lesson sponsorship gives me is the opportunity to practice unconditional love. It deepens my appreciation for what has been given to me. Now, that comes from the sponsorship book, chapter 1. The 12th step in action. It takes a lot of courage to ask someone to be your sponsor. It takes even more courage to be a sponsor and more patience with ourselves and our sponsees as well. Whether we admit it or not, some of us avoid newcomers because we see ourselves in them. We know we drive ourselves nuts. So how can we deal with more than one of us? Also, what happens if we mess them up worse, excuse me. And years later, when we have time and a reasonable amount of experience, someone we respect asks for our guidance through the steps. Those feelings of fear resurface. What if I'm not good enough? Our sponsor's steadfast support plays a huge role in our recovery, especially when we are the knuckleheads we can sometimes be. At times, we are also aware that our sponsor is just another human being, inadequate character defects like ours, who can offend us or come up short. The mutual love, respect, and acceptance that flow back and forth within that relationship are instructive in our decision to sponsor others. Yes, of course, I'm so honored you asked. And we won't do it perfectly. For some of us, even with experience, our patience might wear thin when a sponsee doesn't take our suggestions. We have to confront our powerlessness when someone we sponsor relapses or acts out. There are times when our own lives are unmanageable, and we have to dig deep to be able to show our sponsees the unconditional love they need. Sometimes we make mistakes, but just as in the relationship with our own sponsor, we make it work because we need each other to stay clean. Or we can't make it work. Sometimes going our separate ways is itself an act of love. Today, I will give back some of the unconditional love I received to a sponsee, my sponsor, or any addict who needs it. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. What a powerful meditation talking about unconditional love and sponsorship. And I think for me, reading it is very grounding for me. I've had high expectations of my sponsors in the past. I've had high expectations of myself as a sponsor. I've had high expectations for sponsees and my ability to sponsor them. But you know what I've always found is that practicing unconditional love is the best choice, and it looks different depending on the situation. If I'm sponsoring someone that has become, not usually has become, because usually we come to the program very codependent, right? So if it becomes very apparent to me that they're not assuming responsibility for their own recovery, that I am the end all be all for every decision that they make, I will try to approach that in a gentle manner, but I'm not going to keep approaching it, because I believe that being responsible for my recovery means that I take the spiritual principles and I apply them in all my affairs, but I learn how to do that. I learn how to do that. How do I learn how to do that? I learn how to do that by actually doing it. And it's not helpful to have a sponsor that is ready to chime in every time I'm looking for help with a decision. Some of the best learning experiences I have had has been when my sponsor turns back the question to me and says, well, what do you think? How do you feel? What do you think you should do? Well, why do you feel that you should do that? Why haven't you done it then? Why aren't you sure that that is what you should do? Those types of questions have caused me to dig deeper and to pull back on being so reliant on another human being's affirmation, reassurance. Yeah, I think that that probably would be the only real issue that I've had. Besides, obviously, the things they mentioned here, right? When the behavior doesn't add up with what y'all have been working on, what do you do with that? Sometimes a sponsee just needs to know that you're there, but you won't be there in the sense of you have all of my time, right? I have a whole life. I have a whole life outside of sponsorship. So what is your problem and how can I help you? Right? I have noticed that I have some, um, I have some ideals about the type of people in recovery that I spend my time with. The worst thing for me is to be around a gossip. I cannot even handle being around a gossip, right? Because I can be a horrible gossip when I want to be. I can't, it's very difficult for me to be tolerant in that situation. And so when I learned that that's what I'm dealing with, I don't tend to keep going back for more. Um, but I can remember being such a chatterbox when I first got here. I questioned everything. Everything people did in the meeting was interesting. My facial expressions were very judgmental, and they can still be sometimes, right? And so I remember the immaturity that I had. I've had whole meetings that I've just left because I couldn't handle the group of newcomers in the back just giggling and laughing and gossiping and talking about people during the meeting. And no one that was chairing or responsible for that meeting could ask for a moment of silence and ask that they not do that, right? So I just would remove myself. And so when we talk about unconditional love and sponsorship, this is a huge topic. And its sponsorship is a two-way street, right? It's a huge topic. I like how they say it's hard to ask someone to be your sponsor, but it takes even more courage to be a sponsor. Because now you're saying, here's my experience, strength, and hope, my working knowledge of the 12 steps, right? And the spiritual principles therein. And I'm willing to allow them, in a sense, to be put to the test. Knowing that we're dealing with a newcomer that is going to be judging our every move and possibly using any mistake as cause to distance themselves instead of doing the work. My name is MightyStream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. I hope that you will have a beautiful day on purpose, that you will have unconditional love in your sponsorship relationships. Talk to you tomorrow.